to you live.
Let me tell you, the dopamine, it's flowing.
I am damn excited. Damn excited.
We are so excited to be joining you guys tonight.
Oh!
Well, how you doing, man? Patrick.
Will Sterling.
Yeah.
Super Bowl champion, two-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
Oh, he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna
And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Welcome into another edition of the Arrowhead Addict podcast. This is the Intangibles. My name is Bryce Carter, and joined today by producer and co-host extraordinaire Christian Ainsworth. So if the stream sucks, blame Christian. We wanted to go live for y'all today, so we're doing a live show here, and Christian is kind of learning the ropes here. So if things screw up, it's his fault.
Yeah, absolutely. Just flame me in the comments. Do whatever you have to do. That's the only way to teach somebody, is to bully them relentlessly.
It's one of those things. It's preseason. You get the backup some work. You get a look at some guys who don't always get an opportunity. Some guy who might be selling insurance in a couple of months. So we figured we'd give you a look.
Yeah, well, good. I'm glad to be the backup QB of this show, Price.
It's the least that we can do. Hey, you know what? If you can get Chase Daniel money doing the gig, by all means, go ahead, go crazy. We're going to be talking today about expectations. We exist in a special time right now in the schedule where basically we know what the Chiefs are going to be. We know how the season is starting to trend. We've seen training camp. We've seen flashes from these rookies. We want to kind of talk about what should we expect from this team offensively, defensively, and overall, because, back in April and stuff, you might have said stuff, and then you've got more information, but we haven't seen any games played yet, so we're not changing. It's easy, right? Like if we're like into week 10 and the Chiefs are like 8-2 and rolling, it's going to start feeling like, oh, well, they've got to make a move at the deadline. They've got to make a trade. This is a Super Bowl team. But rewind back to where we are now. Those expectations weren't necessarily the expectations we had when we set out the year. So it's good to kind of set those expectations. But first, Christian, I want to talk a little stadium. Me and you haven't really talked since the renderings have come out of the new Chiefs stadium that the actual Chiefs released, not independent of the Chiefs. And then, we also had the Bills stadium. They had a practice there. So first off, what do you think of the renderings? I know this is a little bit old news, but we'll bring it back to something a little bit more relevant.
Yeah, I mean, it looks fantastic. I'm not exactly thrilled about the whole dome thing, just because, I feel like one of the biggest, advantages of playing in a Midwestern state in the middle of the country is that you have those really, really cold winters. And, there are some teams like Miami who historically, especially under Tua, was like not performing well in the cold. I mean, we all saw that game where it was like -20. It felt like in the stands, I'm sure, on that concrete. And they just came in and couldn't play the Kansas City Chiefs because they didn't have that advantage. So not super thrilled about the whole dome thing. But other than that, I mean, it looks beautiful. It looks like what a brand new stadium is supposed to look like.
Yeah, I think so. I exist in an interesting space with the stadium. Like whenever the option to stay in Jackson County stopped, whenever it became evident that the Chiefs were getting a new stadium, the minute that they decided to leave Arrowhead, it needed to be a dome, in my opinion. And I understand the concerns about cold weather. This stadium will not have a retractable roof, which for, some people are upset about that. It adds probably about $500 million to the project. And also the other thing about not having a retractable roof is like most teams that have a retractable roof don't use it, but like 2 or 3 times a year, because like, if you were at Arrowhead today and it's like 90 degrees with 80% humidity outside, you probably don't want to open. And then if it's raining, you don't want to open. And if it's snowing, you don't want to open. Like there's just a lot of times that it actually won't be open. Like there's probably maybe 5 or 6 games a year that you would open it for. Like Jerry Domes doesn't even work anymore. Like they tried to open it and a piece of metal fell from it. So they're very expensive and they just don't get used that much. So Phantom here in the chat says, like, what are the chances that Kansas City will host a Super Bowl? And they've already, Mark Donovan, the team president, has already said that they're in talks to get a Super Bowl. I would suspect they at least get one. Usually that's how this goes. If you build a new stadium, you do get one. And it's also worth mentioning a lot of new stadiums are being built. Cleveland is building a new one. Tennessee is about to finish theirs. Obviously, and then there's some places that are just evergreen places, like Vegas will continue to get them. SoFi is hosting their second. Miami is always a good spot. Tampa's always a good spot for the weather. But to be a cold weather city and to get that is huge. And I mean, you look at what the World Cup did here in Kansas City, it's going to be that big or bigger here in town. And I think it's something that is really a good thing for the city as a whole. My thing is this, and I know some people have this comment of, oh, well, all these stadiums, they're all carbon copies. They're all the exact same thing. The renderings all look the same. And I think that might be a renderings thing more than it is the actual stadium. Like, let's wait and see what Tennessee is. Like, I've driven by Tennessee's a couple of times. I've not gotten to tour it, but it certainly does not look like every stadium that, is being built right now. Let's see what those look like, because the renderings are all coming from the same company. I don't necessarily think that all buildings are going to look the same. They kept that classic Arrowhead shape that I think was important to them. Clark Hunt talked about keeping the glass roof so they can continue to have flyovers. Like, I think that they're doing some nice things with the renderings. I'm excited of what it's going to look like. And overall, I mean, I think that this is a good thing for the team, because regardless of how you feel about billionaires and how that whole thing works, the team's ability to generate revenue will in turn help the team with cash flow. And cash flow is a real advantage in the NFL.
Oh yeah, and speaking more on the fan side of it, it would be super awesome to be able to go to a Super Bowl in Kansas City, especially if Kansas City was playing. Which, if we were going to have a new stadium and have the potential to host a Super Bowl, I'm glad it's in the Patrick Mahomes era, where there's a legitimate chance that we could actually see him play in a stadium in Kansas City. So, I mean,
yeah, that'd be definitely at the back end, because like you're already talking about 2036, 2038.
Oh yeah,
it's not just Super Bowls, right? It's Final Fours,
Mhm.
it's college football playoff games. Kansas City's already in the bidding for the Rugby World Cup, which I guess is a really big deal. The Women's World Cup is coming up, and also like the Eras Tour or whatever massive tour series is going through, Stadium Tour. It doesn't have to be in August. And if you buy tickets and you live in Omaha, you don't have to worry about it. You coming down here and it raining and like canceling the show. You know what I mean? Like, I think like Morgan Wallen had a couple of concerts canceled recently out in Pittsburgh because of wind. Like, those are all things that you don't have to worry about. So I get that there's some reluctancy, and there's just going to be some people who are never going to be happy, right? Some people want the old Arrowhead no matter what, but it does sound like they're doing some really cool stuff. They're going to have like vendors outside in the parking lots to like help encourage the tailgating. Like, you can go buy food out in the parking lot if you're someone who doesn't want to bring their smoker. Sounds like they're having like tailgating hubs, which maybe like some covered parking or some outlets. They're building honest to God bathrooms out there instead of the porta johns, which is not like, there's some really cool things that they can do it. And they've said all along that they want to build this for Chiefs Stadium. And hey, you can do 142 decibels outside. Imagine that inside. And hopefully they're going to build the stadium to maximize sound. So I do think that there's a real world where this ends up being something in a couple of years everyone's really happy happened.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't want to be too optimistic here, but there is a legitimate chance, like you were saying, that this turns out to be exactly what you want from a stadium, for Kansas City. And I mean, if weather is the only thing that you don't get from this new stadium, I think you take it as a win, right? Like, you play in a dome. It's the cost of doing business nowadays and building a new stadium. That's fine. We'll take all of the pros that come along with that and, shove that little negative off to the side.
And I mean, this is where it kind of gets a little bit more relevant. They've got to learn some lessons from what the Bills have done. Like, the Bills played a scrimmage in their stadium, and there's obstructed views in the stadium. That I'm not making as big of a deal as. Like, I do think like, hey, it's 2026, you should not have these obstructed views. My more like gripe with their stadium is like, okay, one of the coolest effects of the stadium is the seating that's gradient. You can't see that whenever this team is playing, right? Because everyone's butts are in the seats or people are standing in front of them. The video boards are pretty small in that stadium, which I've heard some people like, oh, don't be a casual, watch the game. It's like, dude, have you watched a game at SoFi or Jerry World? All the players are like this after a play. Everyone looks at the video board. You all want to see it. We all want to see that. It also helps enhance the game day experience because, let's be honest, it's a better product sitting and watching at home where you can see the replays and everything. Having that element in stadium, like you want the premier experience. My biggest gripe with the Bills stadium is like, okay, so they built like the Manchester United soccer covering, right? Well, it was raining at this scrimmage that they had, and like less than like 25% of the crowd actually was shaded or covered from the precipitation. Everyone else is still getting wet. So is this $2.3 billion stadium, are they still going to be offering Bills Mafia to come shovel their stadium $15 an hour on Twitter to like get it ready for a game? Because I mean, that's the thing, is like the Bills won't get a Super Bowl, right? Like this is a great stadium. They're not going to get a Super Bowl. They live in one of the most northern places in the NFL. The Super Bowl's in February. That's not happening, right? Are they still going to have to, like, they've moved games from Buffalo before because of snowfall. All those problems still exist in a brand new stadium.
Oh yeah, well, the $15 an hour thing is crazy, man. Like,
no, you know that they do that, right?
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%.
And
sure
Bills fans will be like, oh well, you know, we wouldn't have it any other way. Like this is the Mafia, and we love this stuff, and we'll jump through burning tables. Like, okay, well that's really cute and all, but it's $2.3 billion.
Yeah,
and you still have to go shovel it. That's crazy to me.
You'd think they could have the heated driveway. You know what I mean? Like you got in some of these people's driveway. But yeah, dude, that I've seen. Did you see that like a KC based company is the one who designed it?
Yeah, and that's one thing that is really cool about Arrowhead is some of the premier stadium architecture companies in the world are here in Kansas City. Like KC firm also built Las Vegas's stadium and, you know, did the torch and everything that they have. And so, I mean, I know that some people have joked like, oh, you know, the Chiefs flag is buried under the Raiders stadium, and the architecture firm trolled the Bills fans with the stadium. But at the end of the day, like these billionaires are signing off on everything, right? Yeah. So this is the way that they wanted it. And just to be clear, I do think that there are some really cool things about their stadium. The concourses look really neat. The locker rooms look really neat. I think, you know, the view from the actual stadium is very good. It's weird because there's not paint on the field yet, so it feels kind of weird. But I don't know, man. I just hope that the Chiefs are looking at some of the things that people are griping about this, and they'll also get to see Tennessee's and Cleveland be built and taking some lessons from it.
I think you talked about the KC base for them building the stadium. I think if they were going to take care and, you know, paying attention to every little detail, not that they wouldn't in any other situation, but there might be just that extra little touch if they're doing it for their hometown team, which to me makes all the difference in the world. And
it's not just the stadium, right? It's a practice facility too. They're getting a new practice facility. The bolt that the Chargers have is gorgeous. I know the Raiders or the Broncos just unveiled a new one too. By 2031, the entire AFC West will be indoors because the Broncos are building indoors, the Chargers and Raiders are already indoors, and then the Chiefs. What a weird thing that will be to have. I mean, hey, I've pulled the numbers before. Patrick Mahomes is incredible with the covered indoors, right? Like his numbers and stuff like that. Having 8 games, or it won't be how many? I'm trying to do the math here.
I mean, at that point, it'll probably be 10, right?
Having like at least 10 to 12 covered games a year. That's huge. Yeah. Like there's a situation where the Chiefs could play like 1 or 2 outdoors games a year. Now, it's also worth mentioning, like right now, we view that as an advantage, but you know, in 7-8 years, the Chiefs could be this defensive run-heavy team that could benefit from cold weather. So it's kind of it reminds me of baseball a little bit. Like the Royals for years have built their team around the fact that they had a big fly ballpark, so they would have great outfielders and pitchers that generate fly balls. But if you're in Yankee Stadium where it's like 150 feet to the right porch, you get a bunch of left-handed power hitters because they can just hit fly balls that turn into home runs out there. But it'll be interesting. I'm very excited. I drove by where it would be built the other day, headed over the Kansas side, and it's just exciting to see like where that's all coming from. I think as we get closer and closer to it, some of the complaints will be less and less about them leaving Arrowhead. And hey, the good news is they changed it back to Arrowhead too. So I think that they're going to do a proper send off. Although I cannot imagine what the final game in Arrowhead is going to be like. People are going to be ripping things off of the wall. People are going to be like taking urinals. People will be ripping out like cup hole, like anything and everything that people can take. Like KCPD and Jackson County, they are going to have to be on those people like hawks to make sure that they're not stealing stuff.
Oh yeah. Well, can you blame them? I mean, dude, if I had a chance to walk out of Arrowhead Stadium with a chair, you know I'm about to do that, right? Like,
yeah, I don't know if you're taking those chairs out. Those are probably bolted to the ground.
Yeah.
Hey, man, like, let's be real. The Hunt family can make they could probably pay for half the stadium just auctioning stuff off from Arrowhead. You know?
Dude, that would be so cool too.
Just imagine how much like a locker would go, like the lockers and stuff that they have. All those, I mean, like the freaking pulpit, you know, that they do stuff at, or like the little backdrop that's I mean, man. But enough about Clark Hunt's pocketbook. He's going to make it seems. We're going to get to expectations this year. And like I alluded to a little bit, I think we're in an interesting place right now in the NFL timeline where we know what the 2026 Chiefs are. We know how this team is constructed, barring some major unforeseen trade. I mean, they signed Emmanuel Ogbah yesterday as depth. I'm not going to waste a lot of oxygen on Emmanuel Ogbah unless he starts out snapping FAU, R. Mason Thomas, and Ashton Gelati. But like we know what this,
you know that's going to happen, right? Like we don't have to pretend. We know that that's in the very near future.
I'm choosing to be optimistic.
Okay.
Right now.
All right.
I'm choosing.
You can live in delusion. It's fine.
I do think they needed another defense. Like, because right now the way it was like built, like Tyke Smith was like making the roster, right? Like just for strictly bodies.
Yeah.
So fingers crossed that that's all that is just like depth, because he wasn't particularly great last year. He's had 11 sacks in the last 3 years. He had 2 5.5 sack seasons, 23 and 24, and then a hefty half a sack last year for the Dolphins. But the Dolphins also were not very good last year and, weren't in a lot of games. So we will see. But right now we just want to kind of talk about, what we're going to do, we've set some numbers. We've pulled the previous numbers and then what we think that this team should be. And I want to filter this through the idea of, if this does not happen, it's a disappointment. Point in case, the Chiefs have a first-round left tackle, a second-round high-pick guard that was drafted as a tackle, a second-round center that's one of the highest paid at his position, a guard who's one of the highest paid at his position, and then a tackle that's got an $18 million cap hit this year. If this Chiefs offensive line isn't good this year, like, we need to have some conversations, whether it be Andy Heck, the personnel staff, I'm not sure what, but like there needs to be some conversations, because there is a hefty investment into that. And that's not even including the draft picks of Hunter Norzad, CJ Hansen. Like they've put money and time into that. They've already traded away Wanya Morris, who was a 3rd round pick. But I mean, they've invested there. So we're putting it through the filter of, if this does not happen, there needs to be some questions. And I also think, again, setting reasonable expectations. So that way, when we're on down the line, we can kind of figure out, hey, what is going on here? What is the plan? Those type of things. So let's start with the Chiefs offense. Where should the Chiefs offense rank in yards, points, and EPA per play? So let's start with points. In 2025, they were 21st. Obviously, the Mahomes injury didn't help that. 2024, they were 15th. In 2023, they were 15th. So it's not been top. It's been barely top half of the league. You've got Rashee Rice, Xavier Worthy, Tyquan Thornton, Kelsey, Kenneth Walker, Cyrus Allen. You got Andy Reid, EB is back. What are you setting for their point? Where should they rank in points to be basically a successful season?
So I think it's kind of a good point, or it's worth taking the time to talk about our expectations for the team here, because when I look at this offense and I look at what's added, and I look at, the weapons that we have, to me, the expectation is a lot lower than I feel like a lot of people have it. This is not an offense that I expect to, take the league by storm. And, Xavier Worthy takes a step, Rashee Rice takes a step, Cyrus Allen takes a step, Kenneth Walker's, the second coming of, Saquon Barkley. But for points, man, I'd like to see them around 23 to 24 points per game, which would put them at 15th. That, to me, I feel like with their schedule, with the weapons that they have on the roster, and then, with the defense, I feel like going to be performing fairly well. I think that is a reasonable expectation to have. If they drop below, I mean, if they're, 21 points per game like they were this past season, that's a problem, especially if Patrick Mahomes is around for the entirety of it and we have all these weapons and they're all healthy.
To me, I think they need to be a top 12 in points per game, right? Like I just think that there's a lot of investment on this offense. You have the quarterback, and also, like, we'll get to in a little bit, if they're going to be a contending team, which we'll get to whether we expect them to contend or not, with this defense and where it is, just kind of the rebuild that's happening on that side of the ball, they're going to have to win some shootouts, right? Like, they've been able to string this along the last couple of years as mostly a winning team and going to Super Bowls because the defense was a top 5, top 10 defense. I don't think they're going to have that luxury this year. You said that the running game, you took a big swing on the running game, not only with Kenneth Walker, you bring in Emmett Johnson, you've got all of these explosive backs now that you didn't have before. You've invested draft picks on the offensive line. You brought back Kelsey and Thornton, and, you've got Rice for what should be. I mean, at one point before Patrick Mahomes went down, the Chiefs were up to like 4th or 3rd in EPA per play on offense, and that's without an explosive running game. And that's when Rice, Hollywood, Thornton, Worthy were all on the field. And, you had games missed from Josh Simmons. So, I mean, I really think we're going to just assume that mostly everyone stays healthy. I mean, injuries are going to happen, but we're not predicting a cataclysmic injury season, right? Like, so for me, I think they need to be top 12. If they're sitting around 15 again, because, like, there's not a lot of change on offense. There's not a lot of turnover on offense. You can't even use the different offensive coordinator because he's been here before and they're still running the same scheme. So I think they need to be top 12. If they're not top 12, I think we need to really start wondering about how much of that fastball does Andy Reid still have as far as like scheme wise.
Yeah. And I mean, Phantom makes a good point here. At least 25 due to the defense being so young. That's about where that would be. 12th would be about 25 points per game on average, which, if that's what you're expecting, if you're expecting a few shootouts, which I'm not saying they can't happen, but I just believe so much in this defense and how well I feel like they're going to perform that, I don't expect very many of those to occur during the regular season.
Yards, they set at 20th in 2025, 16th in 2024, and 9th in 2023. I think that they, generally speaking, they've been a little bit better with points than yards. Especially like going back to the points thing, like you've got a good kicker, you get the ball at the 35 now. If it's a touchback, like shoot, you got to get like 2 or 3 first downs and you're in field goal range, right? So like for yards, we live in a weird place. You realize that Patrick Mahomes is the last quarterback to throw for 5,000 yards in 2022. Yeah. Like we've not had a 5,000 yard pass. In fact, like 4,200 yards is like a really good season for passing yards right now. So yards is pretty tough. I mean, I will say top 15. Like I think they need to be top 12 scoring, top 15 yards. I think, generating those explosives with the run game is going to be a big part of this. And I think also like they need to hit on some of these shot plays, right? Like we've seen a lot of Tyquan Thornton down the field this year. They've got to get better at that because they left so many yards on the field over the last couple of years with missed shot plays.
Yeah, see, I'm about right there with you. And you talked about Mahomes' deep field accuracy kind of, taking a hit and some of these miscues with Xavier Worthy. Like I think that does kind of play a role. I'm in that same ballpark. That's about 333 yards per game. That's what it would have been in 2025. So if you can hit 100 yards rushing amongst your quarterback and running back, and then, another 230 passing, that you're there, you have made it. Now, Mahomes last year took kind of a hit. I mean, didn't play his best. And then also, having the weapons go down and not be available was a problem. But, things are trending upward in that direction. So a top 15 finish to me is, that might even be giving it to him a little bit easy. Like you really, 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 15 is the minimum. I would like to see this team have 350 yards per game. That's not out of the realm of possibility. The Rams had almost 400 last season. Like They don't have to be this super innovative offense. They just have to be able to get the ball down the field and be efficient, which I feel like they can be now that they have a legitimate running back.
Yeah, for sure. This next one's interesting. EPA per play. The reason why I wanted to do this one is so some of the biggest EPA boons that you can have for those of you that aren't really big into the stats are converting to first downs, particularly in short yardage, and quarterback scrambles. The reason why quarterback scrambles are so EPA effective is because a lot of times they go for first downs, and a lot of times they're plays that may be broken plays that you're turning nothing into something. Right. This is scrambles, not designed runs. So this isn't like a speed option or, QB power or something like that you might see some quarterbacks run. This is a slight concern for me because you realize that Kareem Hunt was top 5 in EPA per a rush this past year, despite what he was. And it's because he never went backward. He was always going to get 1 or 2 yards. Right. And then the short yardage, they don't have that anymore. And then with Mahomes and the injury, you wonder how much he's going to be able to scramble. He's still looking pretty spry out there. But there's going to be some hesitation there, right? One thing that's kind of pissed me off with Twitter doctors is they hedged themselves all spring by saying, well, Mahomes will never be 100% by week 1. But what they'll do is whenever Mahomes runs out there on week 1, they'll be like, well, I mean, he's playing, but he's not 100%, right? Where they can just hedge that. And it's dude, if you ask an NFL player, the amount of games that they were 100% for, it's slim to none. It's the difference between playing hurt and playing injured. Everybody plays hurt.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you said it pretty well. So what's your ranking then? I mean, do you have them top 10, top 15? I mean, they were 11th last year, so it's not
I think 13 or 14 for me.
Mm-hmm.
That's my guess for them. It's weird because I think that they're going to score more points than they did last year. But I mean, those Oladokin games were just brutal to watch, and I'm sure that tanked them. Like I said, they were top 5 around the time that they went to Buffalo with Mahomes and the full offensive cast. So I think top 12, top 13 is where they need to be at EPA per play wise.
Yeah, I'm a little bit more hesitant. I have them probably about 15th. I think that's a reasonable expectation. And you outline the reasons why. Patrick Mahomes not being as agile, not being as elusive as he has been in years past. I think giving him 1 year where you go, hey, listen, you're coming back off this injury. You made an incredible recovery. I mean, the recovery time has been absolutely inhuman for Patrick Mahomes thus far. So it's you're exceeding expectations. Get 1 year, we can kind of relax a little bit. We don't have to, scramble for all the first downs. And I think, having a running back that can actually get you explosive plays is going to help with that as well. So I can see that taking a hit and then still being a better offense than they were last year. But again, I do think this is one of those statistical categories where they take a step back.
What do you expect for rushing yards? So rushing yards have been a struggle for the Chiefs. In 2025, they were 25th. In 2024, they were 22nd. In 2023, they were 19th. So this is obviously a big focus. What should the expectations be for the Chiefs run game this year? You bring in a big name running back. You've got offensive line investment. You bring back Eric Bieniemy, a new running backs coach. Where should they rank in rushing yards?
It's hard to say. This is kind of one of the ones that eluded me here because I look at the offense and I go, okay, well, how bad was it last year? Because I remember it being atrocious, but how many yards per game did they have rushing? And it's 103 or 106, I think is what it was. Okay, well, that's, bottom third or quarter of the league. That's awful, but 100 yards rushing, how big of an improvement did we make? They're never going to be the Buffalo Bills or the Baltimore Ravens, where over 150 rushing yards per game because your quarterback and your running back are elite. I'd put them somewhere around, I'll say 17th, probably. That puts you at about 120 yards rushing per game, which, a lot of that is going to be on Kenneth Walker's back. A lot of that's going to be with Emmett Johnson. but Patrick Mahomes, still contributing a little bit. Just to me, this is never going to be a run first team. Kenneth Walker's a great upgrade. I think he can be incredibly efficient. I just don't think he's going to get the reps necessary for us to see that, 130, 140 mark.
For me, this is the spot that's got to improve. I'm saying top 12.
Really?
And I agree with you about the they're never going to be a run first offense, but the boxes and stuff that they see, I think that they have to start getting to take advantage of that. And we know that the Mahomes scrambles are probably going to go down a little bit, but top 12 really isn't that crazy as far as rushing yards go. So last year, the 12th team in rushing offense was the Jags. They had 3,779 yards. The Chiefs were at 16 with 3639. So that's really only it's less than 100 yards difference, right? So I really think, breaking off a couple of, I mean, you look at that, they were the least explosive run game and one of the least explosive run games in the NFL. Getting that explosiveness back will certainly help. I also think that they're going to set up things with the pass game. We've seen the offense look a little bit different, more under center, more play action, those type of things. I think that is where we will see this offense. If you're telling me a tale that the Chiefs offense just has a huge resurgence this year, we're going to look back and say, my God, having no run game really killed this offense the last couple of years. And they took their big swing. So top 12 for me in rush yards. Real quick, explosive runs. 2025, they ranked 24th. 2024, they ranked 22nd. 2023, they ranked 21st. So they've been in the bottom third of the league the last 3 years. This is another spot. It's not just Kenneth Walker, right? DeMarcado is pretty explosive. He's fast. His yards per carry are really good. Emmett Johnson was pretty good at that. Brashard Smith is getting a bigger role. You still can generate some with Worthy or Rice. They use those guys on the end rounds. I think they need to be top 15. At least, right? That would be a significant difference. Again, I don't think that this is going to be the Ravens or the Bears or a team that's just totally built through the run. And I'm not sure that's what we're asking for, but they've got to get some explosives. I mean, Mahomes is going to fall to his knees the first time Kenneth Walker has a 25-yard game.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hands up in the air, praising God for sure. To me, they've got to be top 12. This is one of the things where you talked about it. Them seeing light boxes is, as a guy who likes to watch offenses, and we both do stuff for FTN. When we're charting, we're looking, we're seeing, this is the types of defenses that teams are playing against. You watch the Chiefs all 22. It's hey man, we've got 4 linemen and 1 guy. Can you run past 5 guys, 5-on-5 O-line, and your running back has to beat 1 guy? And it's no, he cannot. He cannot. Kenneth Walker, when he sees that, is going to eat people alive. If you watch how he runs, if you watch his tape over in Seattle, he is somebody who takes advantage of light boxes, and he has the ability to make cutbacks. I just think that with how efficient he can be in this offense and what they're going to ask him to do, top 12 is maybe even selling them a little bit short. I really think this could be a top 7 or 8 explosive run offense in the league, even with the limited reps. Because Andy Reid is only going to run the ball whenever he sees light boxes, incredibly light boxes, and there's a really, really good chance that they can be incredibly efficient on a run play. Otherwise, he's going to throw it 45, 50 times a game. So I really love the Kenneth Walker addition, and this is where you see the major impact, in my opinion.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's got to be a huge change for them. Let's switch over to the defense here, because I do think that this is a spot that the expectations they're probably going to be a lot different, right, from what we've seen the last couple of years. You're changing a lot over personnel. Oh, real quick, Chiefs offensive ranking DVOA. 2025, they were 12th. 2024, they were 12th. 2023, they were 8th. Where should they rank in DVOA?
Got to be top 10. Have to.
I agree.
You're an Andy Reid offense with Patrick Mahomes at the helm. You got to be better than 10th.
All right, so in yardage, the Chiefs defense, 25, they were 10th. 24th, they were 9th. 23, they were 2nd. I'm going top 20 here, and I think it's going to look a lot like 2022, where they started slow and then kind of got better. I think there's a real chance that by the time the playoffs come around, this defense is rounding into form. but there's gonna be some busted coverages. There's gonna be some miscommunications. There's gonna be an R. Mason Thomas or a Peter Woods who's abandoning the run gap or something like that. I think that there's gonna be some times here. I mean, keep in mind the Chiefs' schedule. Like, you're facing the Broncos twice. You're facing the Rams. You're facing a lot of good offenses, right? They're facing Seattle. So I do think that there's going to be a few of those games that they're going to have to win 28-24 or something like that instead of what we've had the last couple of years.
Oh, ye of little faith. You talk all of this. You hype up Peter Woods all offseason. He's going to be the best draft pick from this draft class. You don't think he makes an impact? You don't think that?
Oh, I think he makes an impact. I just, their defense is a weak link system. And whether it be, Mansour Delane is still getting his feet underneath them, or if it's, like Shamari Connor or Alohi Gilman, I just think that there's a lot more things that can go wrong on defense. And yeah, I am still very bullish on Peter Woods and Delane for what it's worth. But hey, man, I mean, we've talked about that edge room needing a lot of work. We've talked about that they've got a lot of young corners. So 20th feels right to me. If they're below that, that's where I start being like, okay, well, like, what are we doing here? Like, you spent all these draft picks and they're still one of the worst defenses in the league, or not still, but are one of the worst defenses in the league. Then I'm going to have a little bit more trouble with it.
See, I'm a little bit more optimistic about the defense. I just believe in Spags so much, and our coaching staff has just been able to churn out legitimate weapons at cornerback. To me, they're top 15, top 14. I want to see this defense be great, and they have the pieces. Chris Jones is just a little bit older. He's not making it quite as far, but I really, really think that this defense has the ability to take a step forward. Hopefully Mansour Delane is back on the field, and deals with this injury, and they expect him back fairly quickly. But to me, this is one of those situations where you've got all the pieces, man. This is exactly what happened when you drafted George Karlaftis and Trent McDuffie a few years ago. Can it be replicated? I think so. And, maybe it's just I watched The Dark Knight last night and I'm in the mood here, but I believe in Noel Williams. I really do. I
believe in Harvey Dent.
I believe in Harvey Dent. Harvey Dent, can we trust him?
So I think for me, like, the big thing is, and again, like, if we're telling the tale of like, wow, this Chiefs defense is way better than we expected to be, it's the pass rush. Like, that the pass rush is, because I think there is a chance that this defensive line is a strength. Like, after last year where they were just absolutely brutal. If that's the case, then yeah, you're not asking as much from Noel Williams and Mansour Delane and the secondary to cover. I still, obviously there's a little bit of concern about the linebackers. They are what they are at this point. But yeah, I do think that if this Chiefs defense exceeds those expectations, it's going to be because of the pass rush getting home. Points. So they've historically been better in points than they have been yards. 6th and 25, 24 they were 4th, 23 they were 2nd. So we're talking about, do we think that they're going to be able to tighten up in the red zone? Because that's what a lot of this is, turning touchdowns into field goals. So I'll go top 15 here. I want to look real quick at 2022 and see where they were, but go ahead.
To me, this has to be a top 10. I understand, you have some new guys on the roster, but I mean, Delane is a fantastic press corner. Noel Williams, that's his bread and butter, man. Like, when you get down there in the red zone and you're protecting against slants and posts over the middle of the field or drags, like, you really want your cornerbacks inside leverage and really pressing up on those wide receivers. So if your cornerback can do that and hold for 2 seconds, I expect guys like Chris Jones, Peter Woods, R. Mason Thomas, George Karlaftis to be able to make a play in the backfield. And, I know that's easier said than done. And, this could be one of those situations where, everything looks good on paper until you go out there and you actually see it in person. And then it's, something completely different. But this defense holding teams to 21 points per game is not out of the realm of possibility. They did it last year. They were, 19 points per game last year. I know it's kind of a retooling, but are they going to be elite like the Seattle Seahawks or the Houston Texans? Almost certainly not. But they, to me, putting them down there with like Cleveland or Carolina. That just is not something I can do, especially for this defensive coordinator who has shown us time and time again, man, just get me talented players and I will make sure they work on the field.
Yeah, I'm a little bit, so in 2022, they were 16th in points and 12th in yards. So they're actually a little bit better in yards that year. Most of the times that switched. Again, if you want to tell yourself a tale, Bo Nix twice, whatever the Raiders are running out there twice, whatever the Cardinals are running out there, Carson Becker, Jacoby Brissett, Daniel Jones, Drake May, Geno Smith. Obviously, Drake May is good. Whatever the Falcons running out there, the Dolphins. Like, they've got some pretty favorable quarterbacks to face. So I think that they need to fatten up against those teams. Like, they need to have some, field goals only type of games. And we've seen that happen, like outlier games, like that Raiders game where the Chiefs were just like dominant to epic levels against the Raiders a couple months ago at home. Like, those type of games really, really help the stats too. So they got to kind of fatten up here. Someone mentioned something in the chat about takeaways. Where should the Chiefs rank in takeaways? In 2025, they ranked 27th. In 2024, they ranked 14th. In 2023, they ranked 27th, which is crazy how good that defense was and how few they turned the ball over. I think that they need to get back to being top half of the league. So like 16th or above. Delane was pretty good at taking the ball away. I think Gilman's pretty good at that. Noah Williams is right by the ball. And also, like, takeaways happen when there's people around the quarterback. So the pass rush, I think they need to be top 16 again. And that will help that defense a lot because they've not been good at taking the ball away.
They really haven't. And part of that's because of how they're teaching their DBs. Like, when you watch Chiefs cornerbacks play, it's play man, not the ball, which, there is an advantage to doing that. You see a lower completion rate. Your guys usually are in better position. To me, this is a team that if they're ranked 20th, I'm probably fine. Phantom, I would love to see the defense cause more turnovers as well. The problem is how they're teaching their cornerbacks. So do I believe Delane can kind of overcome the situation, play the man and then also play the ball? Yeah, there are plenty of elite corners that can do that in the NFL. I just think that they are going to stress so heavily on them. Really, really protecting against the deep pass and making sure they get these pass breakups rather than interceptions. It's going to be tough for the Chiefs to be able to do that. I think that's the tough expectation to have. Now, is there a scenario where R. Mason Thomas and Peter Woods come in and they force 2 or 3 fumbles apiece? Absolutely. I think that is a very, very real possibility. Fumbles are just hard to project. It seems like that's a stat that never really translates. You can't really, I've made enough parlays on Underdog to know that the turnover doesn't always cash. The fumble recovery doesn't always cash. So it's just a tough spot.
All right, 2 more to go. Sacks. They ranked 25th in 2025, 19th in 24, and 2nd in 2023. I think Peter Woods, R. Mason Thomas, FAU looks a little bit better than he has in the past. I'd like to see them be top 10.
Yeah, I would as well. Man, what was going on in that 2023 season? How did we get second in sacks a few years ago?
Chris Jones had 15.5.
That will help.
That'll help. Carl Loftus had close to double digits. Amenahue was there and playing well. Like, those were probably the big sum of it. And like, if you look into the analytics and dive deep, like in 2023, when the Chiefs blitz, they were turning every quarterback into Geno Smith, right? Their blitzes were super effective. This last year, they were turning quarterbacks into a borderline MVP candidate when they blitz. Their EPA and stuff, like, their sacks have just not been effective. And I don't know if if people are just picking up more on what Spags has done, or if they're like just not getting it because they're having to blitz at inopportune times. Let me correct the stats. 10.5 for Jones, 10.5 for Karlaftis, 7 for Amenahue, 6.5 for Dana, 4.5 for Tranquil, 3 for McDuffie, 3 for Justin Reid, 3 for Leo Chanel, right? So there's your blitzes, but getting 21 sacks from Jones and Karlaftis certainly helped that.
Oh, 100%. Amenahue, really heavy lifter on that as well.
Yes, and he was really good before that injury. Like, he was a legitimate different maker, and tearing his ACL in the AFC Championship game, I think that definitely like kind of altered his performance the year after.
I think for the Chiefs, where did you have them ranked? What are your expectations here?
I think they're going to be top 10.
I would agree. I think you have to be top 10, especially with the offseason additions. And I don't think Ogba is just going to completely revitalize this defense.
Nah.
But he is a piece of the puzzle that I feel like you can implement as well, who is, raises the floor of the defensive line group. And I'm not saying we got to blitz and be elite like we were in 2023, but certainly guys like Chris Jones and Peter Woods and R. Mason Thomas and Omar Norman Lott, hopefully, who will be coming back off of injury. And George Karlaftis can win their one-on-ones, which is, what Spags is asking them to do a lot. And, you got more years in the system. You've got these young guys. Like you have to see a return on the investment. They have invested more draft capital into defensive line than any other position group, almost 3 times over. So you
got the highest paid defensive tackle. You've got a first-round edge rusher, another first-round edge rusher, another first-round defensive tackle. You have a high pick second round. You have a high pick late round second round pick and a late early round third round pick, all in that defensive line.
Yeah,
and that's not even including Tonga, who was a free agent of note for sure. It wasn't a huge contract. All right, let's put all the cards on the table here. What are our expectations for the Chiefs? Where should they finish in the division? How should their season end? So not necessarily record, because record's weird. Like, sometimes you can be a 10-16 that's way better, or a 10-17 and be way better than that. Sometimes you can be a really bad 12-5 team. So where should they finish in the division, and how does their season end?
I think that a reasonable expectation for this team is a wild card spot, making it into the playoffs, but not being the first in the division. As much as I love the Kansas City Chiefs, I just think you didn't add any true, outside of Kenneth Walker, offensive weapons of note. There are no wide receivers on this team. We're relying on the most unpredictable wide receiver core in the NFL. And if Rashee Rice misses time, is this the worst offensive or wide receiver room in the NFL? Maybe, but the Dolphins also exist. So I would accept the Dolphins as the only reasonable alternative to the Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver room. Now, do you expect people like Cyrus Allen to make a contribution? Absolutely. He's been super, super good in camp, but, been bitten by that snake before. So I see them as absolutely a 10-win team. This is a team that will win more than 10 games. Is that going to be enough to beat the Denver Broncos? And, a healthy Bo Nix coming into the season. I think that's a tall task. I think it's a lot to ask. There are lots of reasons to believe in this team. I think the youth and I think the lack of offensive weapons are really, really going to hold them back. So 11 wins, second in the division, wild card team. And Mahomes in the playoffs, man, I won't predict that at all. He could make it to the Super Bowl, but you got to see it.
So for me, I still think division should definitely be in play. I'm not going to call it a disappointment if they don't win the division, because it is a tough division. They've got, good coaches, good quarterbacks in the division. The division getting harder has been one of the biggest things that have made the Chiefs' road easier, because there for a while it's just you can book 6-0 in the division. Mm-hmm. I think playoffs, I do think they need to make the playoffs. Whether that be a wild card or as a division, it will be a disappointment if they don't make the playoffs with this roster, this team, this quarterback. Any year you don't make the playoffs with Patrick Mahomes, I think should be a disappointment. For how their season should end, I feel like, it's been so weird where the Chiefs are either AFC Championship or Super Bowl, or they miss the playoffs. Maybe this is the year it's a divisional round exit. I'd be pretty content with a divisional round exit given where we are right now. Now, in the heat of the moment, am I going to be disappointed? Of course. But I do think that they're still probably a year away from just being back to a true Super Bowl contender. But I will say, if they hit on 2 or 3 of these draft picks, the way we think that they can, if Delane is just a dude and Peter Woods is the man and Cyrus Allen's hype is real, and then hey, you get what you get out of Khalil Benson and stuff. I mean, and whether Khalil Benson's just a depth piece or if he actually is the starting right tackle, just having that as a UDFA, if they do that, I do think that there is a chance that they could be right back into that Super Bowl contending window. But that feels like the really 100% optimistic view. So I think a divisional round exit, anything beyond that is gravy and you're really thrilled. But I wouldn't call it a failure of a season if it's just a wild card or divisional round exit, because I still think this team has flaws. And they posted their first depth chart the other day, and it was a little bit whelming for sure to look down the list and see what was there.
Yeah. I would like to see them make at least one more move, especially offensively. Like if it's for a Marvin Harrison Jr., if it's for a Michael Wilson, somebody from the Cardinals.
Welcome back, Juju Smith-Schuster.
Oh God, don't tell me that, man. It's too early in the offseason.
Hey, I will never say a bad thing about Juju Smith-Schuster. Man gave me some nice, like a travel kit and a sleep mask. And
What?
Like
When was that?
Whenever I shout out to Juju, his team, whenever I interviewed him, they asked for my address, and I got this really cool box from him. It was like a whole thing. It had like a mirror built in. It had his autograph on it. I got some Just for Gray too, like because he was with Just for Men. Thankfully, I don't have any gray hairs yet, but when I do, they can't be far from happening. But dude, I got some of that. Yeah. It was pretty cool. So I'm never gonna say a bad thing about the man, but they could do a little bit better. If I have Marvin Harrison Jr. or Juju Smith-Schuster as my choice, I know which one I'm choosing.
Yeah, at least you're realistic. We keep it buck here at the Intangibles. So
they don't have a block. They don't have a blocker. They don't have a blocking wide receiver, and that would be that would probably be his role, is come in and block. Either way, regardless, we appreciate you guys joining us today. Hey, if you haven't already, make sure you sign up to get our Chiefs text messages. If you're tired of your phone blowing up from like useless notifications that aren't relevant to the Chiefs, we're not going to be doing that. These text messages are just like honest reactions and news, just Chiefs. Text the word Chiefs to 816-477-5421. You get text messages sent straight to your phone on game day, breaking news as it's happening, those type of things. And that way you can kind of block out some of the noise. I know not everyone likes to be on as chronically online as I am. So check that out. We're going to have game day coverage coming up here on Saturday for the Chiefs preseason game. Not entirely sure what that looks like. We'll probably at least have pre and post, maybe a halftime show, but we are your game day stop. Don't watch the meaningless halftime show where they're talking about other teams. Come react with the best fans in Chiefs Kingdom over at Arrowhead Addict and some of the best analysis you can, whether it be myself or Christian or Sterling or Adam or Patrick. So make sure you're checking us out on game day. We appreciate you guys so much. Thank you to producer Christian, to producer Joanne. Thank you guys for listening. And as always here at Arrowhead Addict, go Chiefs.